Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article and we talk for a minute about what we find and then a bunch of other guff. Dan, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we're going to be talking for more than a minute, I think, because it's interesting AF.
Oh, it's not going to be about tort law or some bollocks, is it?
Nope. In fact, it's more up your Strasser than mine.
Oh.
We're talking about Mars Pathfinder.
Oh! Yeah. Oh wow! Well, this is kind of relevant. We're going to get some SEO out of this episode for once.
This is what I thought. I wanted either something that we could kind of tag on to kind of current affairs, or I will be mentioning, of course, The Martian book and film, or I wanted hay fever as an article because 2 days ago, my hay fever journey has begun.
Now, are you tree pollen that you're allergic to?
No, I think I'm flowers because
okay.
Not only being a dandy, and that kind of fits my general aesthetic, but also I remember so vividly whenever there's a kind of a new big concert that the cathedral choir was singing in Exeter Cathedral, the team of florists would put out loads of new lilies and things, and I would just be streaming all through the concert, and it was nightmarish.
I mean, because at Oxford there's the tradition of wearing carnations to your exams, and that is like a nightmare scenario if you have hay fever, because you never want to be that guy in the exam hall. Everybody had this, I swear, when they went to school.
Yeah.
There was like one person in your exam that would always be going,
yeah.
And in a gigantic sports hall, somehow this noise would just permeate everywhere. And I'm pretty sure I was that guy because there was just a room full of pollen.
I remember actually having a really heavy cold in one of my exams in Exeter. It was something classics, I think, in my maybe second year. And it was so ridiculous that I remember in each pocket I had 2 packs of tissues.
You're dual wielding.
I would just over the course every half an hour interchange the 2 that I would have rammed up each nostril and then just keep writing. So if anyone turned around, it looked like I had a horrific nosebleed.
It's you can't help it, obviously, but you feel so guilty when you're the one in an exam that makes noise as well, because you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I know I'm distracting you.
Mars Pathfinder.
Yes, Mars. Yeah, this is what the show's about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mars Pathfinder is an American robotic spacecraft that landed a base station with a roving probe on Mars in 1997. A very good year. A very good year indeed. It consisted of a lander, renamed the Carl Sagan Memorial Station, and a lightweight, 10.6 kilograms, wheeled robotic Mars rover named Sojourner.
Is it Sojourner, wasn't it?
I guess. I mean, yeah.
Sojourner sounds like some kind of sexual activity that's illegal in most states.
Well, do you remember singing the parry, Lord, let me know thine end?
See, I never actually sang. I recorded it for you, but I never actually sang that one.
One of the lines is, a stranger with thee and a sojourner, as in someone who sojourns and travels.
I thought it was sojourn.
I think it's just a kind of pronunciation thing. You can probably say both. But if it makes you feel safer, Sojourner, which became the first rover to operate outside the Earth-Moon system.
Wow. It is because for people who perhaps have been living under a rock, the reason we're saying this is in the news is because recently the Perseverance rover landed on Mars, and just this past week deposited the Ingenuity helicopter. God, that sounds so crazy to say this.
Yeah. But
deposited a little helicopter that did the first powered flight on another body. That's just over a century from doing the first powered flight on Earth to the first powered flight on another planet.
It's crazy, isn't it?
That is unbelievable, isn't it? But also, as somebody pointed out to me, it does technically, because the Perseverance rover has a tiny nuclear thermal reactor in it, and it deployed an aircraft. It does make it technically part of the United States fleet of nuclear aircraft carriers.
Crazy.
It's just like the smallest by quite some distance in the class.
Did you listen to any of the audio recordings?
Yeah, they're spoopy, aren't
they? They really are very spoopy.
There's a line in one of the Gaunt's Ghost books by Dan Abnett, which is like the sharp in space of Warhammer 40,000. But there's the horror version, well, not the horror version, the horror edition. And there's a line that keeps coming up through the whole book about the wind sounded like it was blowing through. I can't remember the exact wording, but it's basically wind blowing through empty skull sockets, like eye sockets in skulls in a dusty valley. And that's kind of what it sounded like on Mars. Yeah. It's just this wind that is blasting across a landscape that is literally alien. It's really gives you the shivers.
Yeah, it's pretty spooky.
But it's crazy to think that the first rover was 1997. And how far we've come in the past, 25 years. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible, really, when you think about how... So, for instance, when I said I'd mention, and I'm about to, The Martian. A film that I actually really enjoyed. A film that didn't deserve a win. It was nominated for Best Comedy, wasn't it?
Comedy or musical?
Yeah, something like that. Basically, it didn't belong in that...
In the category it was
category.
In, no.
It's a very good film, but it didn't belong there. And that's when I first kind of really, I don't know, came across Pathfinder, because not being a science man, not being a man of science.
Who are you, so wise in the ways of science?
I hadn't really come across it before, but it's incredible and really very kind of, it's simple, like the kind of the beauty of it is its simplicity.
It looks like something that wouldn't be out of place in the first season of Robot Wars. Or possibly the Techno games, if you remember that.
It's this weird kind of folding pyramid, isn't it?
Yeah, Pathfinder was like a pyramid that it bounced away. The way that they got it on the surface safely was they fired it at the planet, then surrounded it with airbags. It bounced across the surface, and then those airbags deflated, and it unfurled like a bunch of petals to reveal the rover inside, which is kind of, who on earth brought that up in a meeting? They were like, wait a minute, it's just crazy, but it's crazy enough to work. And then the actual rover. So when I said it was something that like Robot was, I meant Sojourner or Sojourner. That is like a little. It's very cute. I think it's by far the cutest rover we've ever put on another planet. That I think was it Pathfinder in The Martian, or was it the rover that he used? He took the nuclear reactor out of, or something like that.
I think he took the reactor out of an old. It must have been the Sojourn rover.
But they both have solar panels. I didn't actually think they had nuclear. Hang on, I'm going to have to look this up now.
Because I don't think that he took anything out of Pathfinder because he used Pathfinder. I think he must have kind of reclaimed.
That was it. He used the camera from it, which is how he communicated via like putting signs up via ASCII. Yeah, that was it. I swear that he also took the nuclear reactor.
He did use it for power and warmth, knowing that he was kind of radiating himself.
Yeah. He's also radiating himself by being on the surface of Mars, of course.
Yeah,
Mars does not have a magnetosphere, so one of the big challenges of colonizing or just visiting Mars is the fact that you are being blasted by X-rays and gamma rays from the sun at an alarming rate of knots.
Yeah.
I'm just looking. I think the film doesn't depict him actually picking up like the fuel cells.
No, there's a bit where it kind of cuts to a moment where he said the one thing that you shouldn't do, and there's a little kind of thing in the ground.
Oh yeah. Yes, I remember those.
Like, don't dig up these rods, and he's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and dig up those things I shouldn't.
The rods. Oh, there are some wonderful moments that they really actually captured in the film from the book. There was one that was like, how on earth is this guy doing mentally? How does being the only man on an entire planet affect a person? And then it cuts to him, and he's like, how can Aquaman talk to whales? They're not even fish; they're mammals.
Yeah.
Like, if people haven't read the book, by the way, especially if you're like an engineering type, like someone, math, STEM subjects, if you're studying STEM subjects, it's fascinating because it is like an engineer. To quote his phrase, oh god, what is it? Is it science the out of this? I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
That's how he describes it. But also, something I am going to bring this back skillfully to the article, Dan.
Very nice.
Something that is also in the book is the bizarre sense of humor that engineers have. Have you met Dan Hanvey, for example?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the Sojourner article, and they have an annotated picture from the lander of what the lander could see. And there will be certain objects that they'll be more interested in than others, and so they're going to name them so they can be like, oh, rather than having a look at rock A5720, they have names like Hassock. But there is actually a rock here but named after our dear friend Ed Dunn called Pooh Bear. There is a next to that in the distance is Big Crater.
Wow.
And Far Knob. They definitely knew what they were doing.
I like Roadrunner Flats and Jenkins.
Also, Barnacle Bill, a rock that's right next to the lander, along with Souffle and Pop-Tart.
Incredible.
Scooby-Doo, and then right next to each other, Zaphod and Indiana Jones. Not a pairing I would have ever put together,
No.
I don't think. But, man, these early missions, it is such a fascinating time to be alive, to see these early results coming in from other planets. And it's frustrating to know that I'm probably going to die before man is going to be able to make regular missions. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be alive to see the first person, which I said man, I realise now, is probably would be a woman, actually. Women make better astronauts. I don't know if you know this, because they're less prone to heart problems, and they require fewer calories and take up less space. So actually, they make better astronauts than men. But and originally, the Mercury astronauts, the first cohort of American astronauts, was 50% men and 50% women. But basically, the top brass got word of this and were like, absolutely not. Like, we're not putting women in space. So the first woman in space was Soviet. It was Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space. But yeah, like it is frustrating to know that, you know, you're not going to be part of the generation of people regularly going over to Mars. You know, like I mean, I find that frustrating. Maybe you couldn't give a monkey's.
I'm just reading the most recent BBC News Science and Environment article about Ingenuity's second flight. And in a sort of throwaway paragraph, they say something which really is I think is really cool. And it says, all told, it's been a stunning week for the space agency, which also successfully demonstrated how you could make oxygen from Mars's carbon dioxide atmosphere. A device called MOXIE was able to generate 5 grams of O2, an amount of gas sufficient for an astronaut on the red planet to breathe for 10 minutes. That's incredible.
Yeah, right?
This is like red Mars, green Mars, blue Mars stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's, I think one of the fascinating things about missions at the moment is that they are linking them up. So MOXIE is like a proof of concept for, you know, you can send a mission in advance to generate oxygen for astronauts to breathe, so they don't have to bring that equipment with them. But then they're also doing, I think it's Perseverance that's doing this, they're taking samples, processing them, and then packaging them up, and then pooping them out at the back of the rover for another rover from the European Space Agency to pick up and return to Earth. Like they're spreading the load across multiple missions, and that to me is so cool. And it's like people going to the New World for the first time and being like, right, can we eat the fruit over here? Cool. Okay, right. Next time we're gonna tell people that they don't have to worry about food. You know, like that kind of super early exploration stuff, which is, it's just the coolest shit. It's so interesting. This is one of the things that I did see a meme that was like, when boys turn 4, and I apologize for the gendering there, but it's in the meme, you basically have to choose between dinosaurs, trucks, space, and like Romans, and that is what defines your personality as a child. Yeah. And I am definitely one of the people that, you know, chose space. Like I have always been fascinated by this stuff. It's just amazing.
There's another line here, just briefly, that says, on Monday, Ingenuity made history by performing the first powered controlled flight on another world. And that, I don't think of Mars being another world, but of course it is, because I don't think I ever really consider other worlds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And in a couple of years, they're doing a mission to, I think it's Titan. That's the Dragonfly mission, if I remember rightly. That's
really?
going to be a much larger helicopter. This was kind of more of a proof of concept, I think. But the fascinating thing about this was there's obviously Mars's atmosphere is a lot thinner. It's about 1% as thin as Earth's atmosphere. Sorry, as thick as Earth's atmosphere. And that means that when you move a rotor blade through it, you generate a lot less lift, obviously, because you're pushing against less air. But what that means is you have to balance rotating the blades fast enough to generate the lift, but not so fast that you exceed the speed of sound on Mars.
Yeah.
Because if the rotor blade tip exceeds the speed of sound, you generate a shockwave, and what that does is effectively kill all of the lift that you would generate from the rotors.
Yeah.
So it's super fine balancing, making it spin fast enough to be capable of lift, but not so fast that you actually destroy the lift in the first place.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts. I didn't know about that Titan thing too either, which that's incredible.
Well, because Titan's a lot more acceptable, I think, for flight because it's got a much thicker atmosphere.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I'm just looking at a render now of what the Dragonfly mission could look like. It looks like something from James Cameron's Avatar.
Really?
It's like a proper. It's like one of those giant quadcopter things.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Isn't that cool? But it's going to launch in 2027, so it's going to land in the mid 2030s.
And have you seen? I forget what they're calling it, but the new big ship that's coming out of what's
SpaceX?
Yeah, SpaceX.
Yeah, oh Jesus! I was watching a video. I watch a video about the progress every week. Starship.
That's it. Starship. Yeah.
So if people are interested in that, there's a great guy on YouTube, and he's also in the Twitch comments, like Twitch chat sometimes on my channel, called Matt Laum, who does a show every Monday that is recapping what's happened in spaceflight this week and what's going to happen in the next week, and also what happened that week in history. Really, really interesting show because there's a whole section that's basically because they do so much, like SpaceX's what's new in the world of Starship, and keeping track of what all the prototypes are. Like, I am absolutely not an Elon fanboy. I have a lot of problems with how he does but it is just to see how dynamic that stuff is to do with Starship is fascinating to me.
And I think also having someone having a personality like Elon Musk wanting to be at the forefront of interstellar kind of exploration is quite exciting because
it makes it sexy,
yeah,
doesn't it?
It makes it sexy, but I think it also, with someone who is just so creative and basically doesn't take no for an answer, and with it being private, I think it's a good combination to having a private company working with a government agency like NASA, and kind of using the two powers combined rather than like this idea of a space race, which still probably is still a thing on the kind of international stage.
That's going to be more of a thing in the coming years because I don't know if you heard, but Russia is basically pulling out of the International Space Station.
Oh, really?
Saying fine, we'll make our own with blackjack and hookers.
Yeah.
But they viewing that kind of era, I think, of international cooperation as being not dead, but certainly waning. And I think in the coming years you're probably going to see another space race of potentially China and the United States and Russia, and you could also put ESA, Europe, in as a competitor in there.
Yeah.
To these firsts, like getting a first person on Mars, but then also first colony on the moon, and potentially all these just incredible things that were just science fiction 50 years ago. We're probably going to see some of them in our lifetimes.
Yeah, well, we had a neighbour in the Netherlands who, like a family friend, who the father worked for the European Space Agency.
Oh, really?
And he was involved with one of the first satellites launched that was like laser powered.
Oh, I remember you saying about this.
It's amazing because he used to go up into his office and bring down like the most beautiful like miniature model. And I say miniature, it would have been, I don't know, the size of
a bigature,
like a rugby ball, let's say. So it was really detailed, and he was explaining. To me, being I would have been in year, I don't know, 5 or 6 at school, and he said, "You've seen the Star Wars films?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "They've got those big blue lights on the back, and that's how they move." I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, that's what we've done." And he was the most fascinating, lovely man. Yeah, really cool. And he took us on a tour of one of the sites in the Netherlands. It was really cool.
Jealous.
Yeah.
So, just speaking of science fiction, I'm on the Dragonfly Wikipedia page now, and there's just a small section on the side here which is, unbelievable to me that this is happening. But it's just a little section that says Titan aircraft, landing date 2036, landing site the Shangri-La Dune Fields. Amazing name for one thing, and then distance covered. They're planning to cover 5 miles per flight.
Jeez.
Like I can't articulate. I don't know what to do with my hands right now. This is one of my favorite episodes of the show, I think, because we've really rolled a D1 million and landed on something that it's so. It's obviously not primal because there's no way that prehistoric humans had any concept of spaceflight. But I guess that kind of exploration, that urge to explore the next valley and what's in that cave and that kind of stuff, and potentially discovering these amazing things that were previously just stories.
Yeah.
That were myths made real. That's what space exploration is.
That's crazy.
God. How long have we been talking? God, we actually need to get on with the rest of the show. I don't want to leave this behind, Dan. This is the first time this has ever happened. I don't want to leave this Wikipedia article.
Yeah, I think it's going to result in another procrastination binge later today of just looking up what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to do a video on Dragonfly. That's amazing. But also, it's fine. It's not like anything very interesting has happened in the past week or two. So, we haven't got too much left to talk about. But one thing I am going to have to tear myself away from this screen. I'm going to close the window. One thing that we do need to talk about, Dan, is having you recommend a new choral piece of the week.
And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please.
You haven't listened to any, have you?
I absolutely have.
Oh!
I absolutely have. And once again, I'm going to be recommending an entire album because it's glorious. And it is Magnificat 2.
Oh, Electric Boogaloo!
Which is the new album that's come out from the choir of St. John's College, Cambridge.
Very fun.
And it is, honestly, perfection. It is just beautiful. In 2019, they released their first Magnificat album, which was kind of met with critical acclaim and considered just a kind of masterpiece in not only a really nice selection of canticles on offer, but just the standard to which the recordings were taken. It was just incredible.
I didn't think that they'd ever make a sequel to the Magnificat, but the church is always trying to reinvent itself, right?
Yeah, Magnificat 3, the musical on ice, is coming out in 2023, which we're all really looking forward to.
Flashback to that video. Do you remember that video that somebody made of us where we found there was an ice skater that looked exactly like me, and they photoshopped your face onto their female partner?
Yeah.
That's playing in my head rent-free right now. Also, looking at the track listing, I never thought about this really, but possibly already know. When do you think Herbert Howells died?
Ooh, 60s?
See, I would have originally guessed, like mid-century. He died in 1983.
Oh, right, yeah. That's probably about right.
Like way later. And also, incidentally, the same year that William Walton died. And I would never have guessed that William Walton was alive in 1983.
Yeah.
Well, this looks a lovely album art, actually.
I mean, and if you kind of look at what St. John's has been putting out over the last, 5-6 years, all of the album art is in the same style. It's really slick.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
It's just beautiful, but the recordings are just out of this world. The attention to detail, the sound that Andrew Nethsinger is getting out of his treble front row is just beautiful, and it's real. I was having a conversation with a friend about this, and for something like a collegiate choir at any university where a kind of a chapel choir exists. Really, you can make the kind of first the first differences to note are whether there is a front row of a kind of adult female singers like there is at, say, the University of Exeter Chapel Choir, or whether that particular chapel choir has a front row of boy or girl or both choristers. And I think as soon as, obviously it affects the sound, and I personally prefer a front row of trebles, but I think in part of having those younger, kind of more malleable voices, you can really hear the kind of the humanity in the music. Whereas with something that you might have with a front row of adult females, sopranos, you can be quite a lot more clinical in your attempts to get perfection. And I think with that, you can run the risk of taking a lot of what's so brilliant about the music away. You know, I like to hear, you know, every now and then when you can hear, I don't know, a breath from a boy chorister when they've been told not to breathe in that gap, but you can just hear the kind of slightest little, oh, he's forgotten, or she's forgotten. Whereas the kind of, as I say, clinical precision that you can get elsewhere, I think can sometimes detract actually from the music, because it's, for me, I don't listen to choral pieces and I want them to be absolutely kind of laser perfect.
Yeah.
I want to be reminded of the humanity behind the music. And I think this new album is just absolutely gorgeous.
I mean, I know, I totally get what you're saying, and I've said this before about composers, actually. Like, sometimes I think I really, I prefer Handel to Bach, because Bach is almost too perfect. Like, it's like a robot came down to earth and was like, oh, this is how you write music. Like, whereas with Handel, there is that kind of, not imperfections, that's not the right word, but there is that humanity in it.
Yeah.
So I totally get what you're saying, but yeah, to me, I think if I had to choose a choir to listen to, I would probably choose adult treble. Sorry, not adult trebles, sopranos.
Yeah.
Personal choice, but you know, a good treble line. Like, I don't know if it's still the case anymore, but certainly a little while ago, New College, Oxford was phenomenal for its boy choristers. Yeah, far better than King's College, Cambridge, which is just the most successful branding, like, ever, right? Like, everybody knows about King's College, Cambridge, whereas there are far better Cambridge colleges. Like, Trinity is, for my money, the best college choir in Cambridge.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because there are some things, of course, where for the ensemble, it would be not inappropriate, but you'd be fighting, I think, a losing battle to try and do certain works with child choristers. For instance, you know, let's take Tenebrae's recording of the Path of Miracles. You know, there's some works that are just written that, you know, it doesn't. But equally, then comparing recordings of a Passion, St. Matthew or St. John, or the B minor Mass, for instance, and I think it's works like that are so liturgy forward, that real precision and accuracy and kind of it suddenly becomes quite, I don't know, almost automated. And as soon as you get that inkling, for me, I'm kind of gone. Like, I wouldn't probably listen to Tenebrae sing a B minor mass or a Passion. I'd prefer to hear someone like the 16 or a kind of ensemble that takes the liturgy first and doesn't think we're going to have to record this piece, you know, umpteen times because we need it to be perfect. Yeah. But then there are other things, as I say, like the Path of Miracles, or kind of, I don't know, more, what's the word? More pieces that you get a sense of a kind of a choral landscape as opposed to an offering to something, whatever you want to call that, through music, I think is the difference.
Right, yeah. I'll tell you what, though, speaking of the imperfections, you might know the recording that I specifically am talking about here. One of the pieces that we're going to have performed, including by you, of course, at Pixel Girl and I's wedding, is Blessed Be the God and Father by Wesley. Yes. And there is a recording by St. John's, Cambridge. And there's that lovely treble solo in the middle about love one another with a pure heart fervently.
Yes.
And there's basically the climax of that solo where it really soars up to like I couldn't tell you what note it is, but with a pure heart fervently. But they clearly told the treble, be like, just really go for it. Like, this is your moment. And he really, like, this kid is like, with a pure... How does he do it? It's like a proper, with a pure...
Yeah.
And he just gives it the beans. And I'm like, you wouldn't get that with Tenebrae on the 16 or something. And it is so much more like, it's almost like you can imagine being in the church a bit more. Like, you can practically see his shoulders rise up. Be like, pure! Give it the old Hugo Wickham.
Yeah.
Well, what if you had to pick a college choir in Cambridge or Oxford? Which would you pick, do you think?
Ooh, that's so difficult. I think for me, it's got to be St John's for Cambridge. I just love their sound. I think it's so great, and for me, it's the sound that has that humanity behind it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, for Oxford, I do love New College, but then Queen's actually, the Queen's College Oxford has put some really cool stuff out with Owen Rees as their director, and I've listened to quite a few of their albums. They did I think a Howells one recently. Which was pretty incredible.
I mean, I'm going to give an honorary mention to St Peter's, not necessarily because they're the best, but just because I have loyalty.
Of course.
But I think New and Queen's are probably the best in Oxford, and if I Trinity, I think is my favourite in Cambridge, with St John as a close runner-up. But I think just based on, it depends piece by piece, really. If I had to pick one, like out of all of them, I might pick New College Oxford. To be fair, I like the sound of their front row. Let us know what your favourite Oxbridge Chapel... Everybody stopped listening, Dan. Yeah. They were like, oh, wow, an episode about science and Mars. Simon's going to be so interested in this. And then 15 minutes of chapel choir talk.
Gotta love it. You've got to love it.
But anyway, Magnificat 2 Electric Boogaloo. That is your choral piece of the week.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, we have been recording for a while. This is going to be a bumper episode, I think, because you had something that you wanted to talk about in Critics Corner.
Yeah, I did. And it's only going to be a kind of little fleeting remark, but I've been altering my my morning routine somewhat in what I'm drinking specifically, because I've
hard liquor.
The hardest of frozen whiskey is what I'm like.
Kentucky bourbon. Straight out of bed, knocks back a bourbon.
I do love a Kentucky bourbon, I must admit. It's really nice. I've been drinking Buffalo Trace.
Oh, okay, I don't have
which
that.
Which is really nice, and the kind of, staple for an old fashioned. But yeah, I'm typically a tea drinker. I probably have maybe
famously
4 or 5 cups a day at least. But I've been shifting to coffee in the morning, certainly before kind of 11, just because it's quite nice to sit up at my desk reading whatever law it is I'm reading and kind of sipping on a coffee, because I can drink tea like it's going out of fashion, and I think it would have been maybe 2 years ago I invested in an espresso coffee like pod machine.
Oh yeah,
because they're convenient. I really like the taste, and sometimes when you're wanting to, I'm not going to spend however many hundreds and hundreds of pounds you need to spend on a really good kind of bean to cup proper coffee machine. An espresso I've been really impressed with.
And you can recycle the pods, I believe.
You can recycle the pods, and the only difference is you can't recycle them particularly easily, in that they've got to go to a specific place. You can't just put the pods in a recycling bin, for instance.
Yeah.
But what you can do is go onto the website with your account and request a pickup, and they'll just come free of charge and pick up and recycle your pods for you, which I think is pretty great.
That's what we used to do, because Pixel Girl now has planes just flying by my window very low. That's troubling. It's actually now banking straight towards me as if it heard me say that. I don't want to alarm you, but this might be the last episode of the Wikicast, Dan. There's a Cessna 182 bearing down on me.
Should we just hold on for a moment?
This is like 50 meters off the ground. I'm not even joking. Wow.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I think it was just doing a reconnaissance flight.
Right.
Okay, we're all good. That was actually genuinely a wee bit scary. It was like, it heard me say something, and then it just turned directly towards the house.
It's not doing a Wikicast flyover.
Yeah. It's like, like people that write in smoke behind...
Yes.
We should pay somebody... Oh! Now that's a way we could spend the Wikicast money, Dan.
That's true. On what day, though? On the morning of the election over London. What is this? So, like the 6th of May. That'd be incredible.
Just download the Wikicast on your podcasting service of choice, or just Wikicast.
Yeah, I wonder.
Just the word Wikicast.
I wonder how much that would cost.
Oh, this is where someone in the readership is like, I actually do that for a living, and I could do that for you.
That would be honestly incredible.
I'm gonna have to look up to that. How much does it cost? I'm gonna Google this right now. How much does it cost to have a plane right in the sky? Let's have a look. Skywrite. Oh my god. Okay. Skywriting starts at $3,500 for a single writing.
What do they define as a writing?
I don't know.
Because you could say that, yeah, that book I wrote was my first writing, and I don't think they would write the whole book, would they?
Although thinking about it, like, that's not necessarily the best look for me personally, because I'm so against like aviation as a carbon source. I'm like, lol, let's just send a plane up to write the name of my podcast. Okay, let's maybe not do that. Okay, what a wild ride.
Hey, I wonder if you know that there are these partnerships with, as we were talking earlier about SpaceX and NASA working together, the combination of public and private entities working towards a greater goal.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can buy advertising space on something that goes up, and if so, can we send them a Wikicast sticker? And can we get it on some? And can we have the Wikicast represented on? Imagine on this kind of premiere flight to Titan, we can have a Wikicast sticker on one of Saturn's moons, isn't it?
Yeah, Titan is.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That'd be amazing. Thousands of years later, archaeologists will find it and be like, this must have been so important to their culture. This must have been like crucial for it to be on the first mission.
Yeah.
The prophets Simon and Da'an.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna be looking up this at the weekend. I'm gonna see what advertising space costs on a satellite.
Jesus, this is a wild episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, you start drinking coffee.
Oh yeah, I've been drinking more coffee of late, and I had to buy more pods, and I've recently normally go for kind of like a fairly standard kind of mid-strength, something like their either, I think they call it a Roma pod or a Corto pod. They're quite nice.
Oh, right,
but
yeah.
I picked up one of the kind of slightly more edgy ones, and this one was called Creme Brulee. Mm-hmm. And it's just lovely. It's just really nice. It's like a little mid-morning treat, because it's got like a vanilla-y sweet kind of. I'm not one who kind of wanders into a Starbucks and say, well, I don't.
Yeah, you're a savoury kind of person. You don't go for sweet stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not overly sweet. It's just different, and I really like it. It's nothing like can I have a mega giga frappa cappuccino with almond milk ice, and can it be shaken under the full moon and then strained into my own cup that I've brought, which I also like sacrificed something under, like the really kind of silly coffee world. But yeah, it's really yummy. Nespresso, thanks very much. It's great. It will never replace Yorkshire tea, I'm afraid. But
Spiff will be delighted.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Well, I had a little thing that happened to me this past couple of weeks, in the 2 weeks since we last recorded. Mm-hmm. I did a D&D show on my Twitch.
Oh, cool.
And that's now going to be a regular thing. I actually just today bought the domain rpgeeks.co.uk. And that's now going to be hopefully... well, we're hoping to do a weekly show, but every other week is going to be the campaign, and the alternative weeks are going to be what we've started calling the D&D brief.
Ah, very good.
Basically talking through the science that we kind of ran across in the D&D campaign. People seem to enjoy the first episode, well, the one shot that we did, and we had some wonderful character art done by Calamity Cass from the community. My character was basically just Ed Dunn. I literally just sent her that as for the artwork. My character is Ed Dunn. Like, can you make the eyebrow look a bit more arrogant? Was pretty much the only feedback I gave her. But that was a big thing for the channel, and something that I'm really excited to do in the future, because it's totally unlike so much of the other stuff that I do. Really.
Well, that's so exciting.
Oh, and I announced that I've written a book.
Yeah, I heard about that. Anyway, so what's the next bit of the podcast?
It's Patreon Corner next.
Yeah,
I think
so.
Top lad.
Patreon.
But Dan, what is Patreon?
Hang on. Wait.
No, you've got to carry the show. You go.
Wait.
Our producer's looking at us through the window, Dan. They're like, making that come keep it moving, Dan gesture. We're running out of time.
Patreon.
We can't disappoint the producer, Dan.
Do we? I want one.
What?
I want a producer.
I want to have a producer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I want to wear a top hat and a cane and drive the chorus girls insane. Thank you, Mel Brooks.
Pinch their cheeks like, ooh,
Well, indeed. Yeah, I think we need a producer. I think we need someone to bankroll us.
Daddy Elon.
Daddy Elon.
Perhaps.
Shall I get him on the...
I hate that.
I'll get him I'll give him a bell and see if he's free. He probably doesn't have much on.
Yeah, I imagine he's got a gap in his schedule from most of Thursday.
Yeah. Or I could reach out to John Rutter through the Memorial Home for Injured Swans and see.
There we go. We set up the home for him. It's the least he could do.
We did. Weirdly, in the email response back, I think he was a little bit perturbed that were kind of portraying him as deceased.
Yeah. The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Well, patreon.com/the Wikicast is how this nonsense happens. It's how the show is funded. You guys are our producers, of course. That's really how this works.
True.
And people donate to cover the cost of hosting and possibly sending. We now have a variety of pledges we've made, Dan. Like, we were going to put you in a gimp suit if we reach $500 a month raised. We were going to go to camp in Antarctica if we raised $2,000 in a month. And now we might be sending a Wikicast ticket to space.
Yeah.
We're nothing if not ambitious.
Indeed. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to those who support the best of tiers, the top dog tier.
Wrong.
Just wrong. So without further ado, I'd like to say thank you to Ben Caples, Josh Shiaga, Henry VII, King of England and of France, Lord of Ireland, Aaron Carey Augustin, Adrian Chan, Naf Laroche, Hasse Hansen, Aaron Jorgensen, Remnar, Lexi at Front Desk, Eve Sharples, Alistair Fortune, Peter Reed, Maggie, Colin J. Brown, Kodzo, Ben McMurtry, Jay Wright and Eric Bolliger. Thank you so much.
Whereas I would like to thank actually the best group of people, the best tier of people that support the show at patreon.com/the Wikicast. And that, of course, is the people supporting at top cat level. Those people would be... Why did I originally read that as Olivier? It's definitely just Oliver. Oliver, Violet Hatch, Abu El Ella, the Physics Boy, Simon P, Jack Easton, Izzy Christie, Nafi Iftikhar, Christopher Betterton, Dame Valerie the Third...
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Layla Medina, Oliver Craigie. Hang on, is that two? Oliver Craigie, have you created 2 email addresses? You're supporting us by far too much.
Didn't Oliver email in one week and say, that's what's happened?
Oh, yeah. They forgot their login, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. Well, we really appreciate your double support. Doubly more than anybody else on this list. Oh, jeez. But also, I guess, some kind of thank you to Will Janice Humphreys, Rents Kirk, Oliver Burkhart, Omar Miranda, Cole Mansfield, Princess Andromeda, Choco Cat, Ben Dent, Isabella Strowski, Matt Maguire, and the one and only Dan Hanvey. I'm a bit disappointed I don't get a royal name to read out, you know? Fix that, please, ladies and gentlemen. Top lad!
And it's that time again when we're in correspondence corner. We have an
That sigh. It's that time again.
I'll do that again. I meant to make it sound sort of kind of homely and relaxing, and what I did was make it sound incredibly dull. So I'll redo that.
The producer's going again.
Do
it through the glass window.
Just do it right this time.
You're gonna get the hose again.
And it's that time again when we're in correspondence corner.
Oh, how homely.
Beautiful. We've got an email here from Cameron.
Cameron Steele.
It's titled My Ever-Improving Relationship with Sports. It begins, I've got great parents. There's no need to brag, Cameron. As a child, they were always trying to help me find a sport that I enjoyed, hoping to add some variety to my development. The first thing I tried was soccer.
Soccer.
Despite being barely more than a toddler, I made an archenemy on my very first day and was kicked out of there by the second. It was for the best. Any longer, and there would have been more than one ball getting kicked. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Next was T-ball. My coach asked me to stay where I was. Then he walked off with the other players.
Cameron.
He was assigning field positions, you see. I thought I was being ostracised. I ran back to the car and cried my eyes out. Thus ended my less than 30-second membership in the T-ball team.
Is T-ball like baseball?
I guess.
I thought T-ball was like tetherball, the one where it's just like a ball and a string.
If they're assigning field positions, it must be like, or like maybe like softball or something.
Well, isn't softball... I'm a bit confused about all these variants of baseball, I'm not going to lie.
Softball is baseball, but with a soft ball.
It is actually... I thought a softball was actually like a hard shell. Or is it just a bigger ball, maybe?
I think it is slightly bigger.
Right, okay.
I tried volleyball in elementary school, scored a point with my first hit. I also broke a blood vessel in my hand, went to the nurse, didn't go back.
Okay, fair.
Eventually, I got a PlayStation Move with a game called Sports Champions. It included gladiatorial combat, which I enjoyed.
Wow.
Brilliant.
This is character development.
It is.
Cameron's been on a journey.
I enjoyed it so much, in fact, that I lost 50 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
Reaching a healthy weight for the first time in memory, and also became immensely agile and quite acrobatic. And that's the story of how video games became my favourite sport. P.S. Do you ever think you'll read out part 3 of the podcast trials? I have a right to ask, I think. I check with my lawyer, but he hasn't got a degree yet because he plays too much World of Warcraft. Cameron, yes.
We do have that, yes. In gosh, where's that even gotten to? Podcast trials.
Is it in fan fiction?
It will be in the fan fiction folder, I'm sure. Yeah. And if it has been sent to us, because that might be a, are you going to read it? Because, if so, I will send it. Yes, we'd absolutely be up for reading that. We have quite a few. God, I kind of forgot that we had a few fan fictions still to read, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's been quite a lot. This week we are amazed at how many emails have come in. So we're just all, I think, reeling from that more than a bit.
We've been inundated with stuff. So I think what we'll do is we can try and read it out next episode. But for now, I think we've got to try and make some headway with this staggering amount of correspondence.
Well, I have a fascinating looking email here from Emma, titled "Sport, Sins, and Some Thanks." Dear Messrs. Clark and Moore, apologies for the long email, but you did say your inbox was empty. I already regret that. You mentioned unusual sports, and I think I have something for you. Dan, have you ever heard of horseball?
Simon, I have never heard of horseball.
Now, the next sentence is going to give you more questions than it will give you answers. It's described as basketball and rugby on horseback.
No. No, it can't be. Basketball and rugby, like they bear any similarities at all, and then throwing in on horseback.
Hang on, okay, right, there is a little explanation here. Perhaps this will help, because at the moment I am very confused. Simply put, a team of riders have to throw a ball with straps between themselves and shoot it into a hoop. But here's the difficult bit. If you drop the ball, you have to lean off the horse and pick it up, or do a line out like in rugby. Presumably you're still on the horse? You're doing like a line out on horseback?
So what it is, it's Quidditch.
Yeah, it's Quidditch.
It's Quidditch on horseback.
Amazing.
Amazing.
All while dodging tackles from the other team, bludgers, and galloping around with no hands.
That's incredible.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing. And very dangerous. I currently play, Emma says, on a national level.
Whoa.
Sure, there's only a national and then international league, but it still counts. It's a brilliant sport, and the team I play with are the most lovely people imaginable and couldn't be further from the posh horse rider stereotype if they tried. I have to admit, this basically seems like, if such a thing was possible, it seems like the working class version of polo.
Yeah.
You know?
But it sounds way better than polo.
Yeah, definitely. Attached to a few videos of me falling off after a tackle pickups and a shooting exercise. We have video!
Yes.
1,000 times yes! Okay, so this is, there are like, how many players can I even see? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, players. The ball is about the size of a rugby ball, but it's got these handles on it. And they're not fully galloping around. They're like, I'd say trotting to canter speed in that first clip. And then...
Whoa.
And then the ball is being placed... So the hoop is like a Quidditch hoop. That is amazing. How have we never heard of this sport before?
I don't know, but I absolutely love it.
If we get an opportunity to play horseball, we are 1,000% making a video about it.
Yeah.
I'm just watching, I think it's the third clip that they've sent of picking up the ball off the ground, just like casually leaning over and picking up a rugby ball, pivoting from the saddle. That looks so hard.
Oh, wow, look at the net.
Yeah, right?
This is incredible. Emma, this is incredible.
Astonishing. I also wanted to email you, Emma goes on, to say, I wanted to email you both to thank you for your candid discussions about mental health. I've been struggling for years, and finally realising how much I related to you, I called my GP, who promptly referred me to therapy for depression. I'm not okay, but spending a lot of time thinking I'm being weak or pathetic. Powering through by denying it has been my strategy for so long, and it's hard to unlearn. Hearing you talk about both your experiences has helped me process my struggles and worry a lot less about getting help. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That is so amazing to hear.
That's brilliant. That's kind of, we had a discussion, I think, even when we weren't recording, about if by us talking about it, we can have any kind of effect that's going to positively benefit the readership, then, you know, what an amazing thing. So also amazingly brave. You know, it's not an easy thing to do at all. So bravo to you. And I really, really hope that you're starting to maybe feel a little bit better.
We stand people taking their mental health seriously and seeing their GP. That's a fantastic step. Well done, Emma. Yeah. One way I cope now is by crying in a ball. No, wait. One way I effectively cope is by, of course, listening to this podcast, the Anthropocene Reviewed, or audiobooks. Mm-hmm. My audible listening time is currently 1.5 months. Bloody hell. But with YouTube, I reckon I'll be on about 3 months. I mention this because I must repent my sins. We're taking a brief journey into county pedantry, Dan. As the boys at my primary school kept taking Heroes of Olympus out of the library, I listened on YouTube. The app I accidentally used was called YouTube Downloader, not plain YouTube, and it was obviously removed from the App Store, but not before I'd listened to the books, and thus illegally downloaded them.
Strong.
Fergus, can you please put the whole you wouldn't download a car music in here, please?
Yeah.
You wouldn't illegally download Heroes of Olympus. Yeah, 100% would. Emma did. So for 3+ years, I was repeatedly listening to illegally downloaded versions. I've since bought the series, but still feel guilty. I hope you'll forgive me, fathers.
Good save there, Emma, adding the I've since bought them. Very, very good.
I have since bought them, definitely. Well, I can certainly forgive you for that one. That was, you weren't to know, you know? You didn't know that was illegal. It's a victimless crime, really. You people better buy my book. If you pirate my book, I'm going to come round your house and be very appreciative that you're enjoying my work.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's the opposite of a punishment. Anyway, currently I'm listening to Benedict Cumberbatch, Bramble Patch, Cabbage Patch, narrate The Order of Time, a truly glorious mix of physics and smooth cumbertones. Ooh. Smooth cumbertones. Any suggestions for poetry or good audiobooks would be greatly appreciated. Dan, quick suggestion, go.
I was listening last to what's the sequel to The Book of Dust?
The Secret Commonwealth.
Yeah, the Secret Commonwealth. I've been listening to that. It's pretty good. It's being narrated by Michael Sheen, who is a bit of a legend. I've also been listening to the audiobook of Ready Player 2, the Ernest Cline sequel to Ready Player 1. Very fine.
Oh, right.
And it's narrated by Thingy, the American D&D dude.
Oh, Matthew Mercer.
No.
The other American D&D dude.
Will Wheaton.
Oh!
Yeah.
Will Wheaton. Oh, fun. I would give you a recommendation, but I have not listened to an audiobook in ever. Actually, I don't think I've ever listened to an audiobook, and I don't know poetry, so there we go.
Boom.
There's also a bunch of stuff here not for the podcast, Dan, if you'd like to read that in your own time. But
shall do.
Emma, that's one of the best emails we've ever received. Horseball. If there is an opportunity for Dan and I to visit and try horseball, we will 100% take you up on that and film it, because that sounds amazing.
For sure. There's an email here from Cara, and it's titled Semi-Unusual Sport and Podcast Reading Habits. A happy hello to the good Dr. Clark and Mr. Moore. Obligatory long-time reader, first-time writer here to share some rambles. I found Simon's PhD vlogs during my senior year of high school, and to this day rewatch them as I make my way through my astrophysics degree. Ooh. When I heard that this wonderful podcast existed, I knew I simply had to take a look and wasn't disappointed. I personally absorb the content you two produce via the podcast app on my iPhone. Also the native podcast app, cool. But have been trying to get my sister to tune in as well on Spotify, as she is a film studies major, and I feel she'd love your critiques. I'm sure she would.
Yeah, definitely professional grade critiques.
For sure. I have often waited for the right time to email in, but always felt that I wouldn't be too interesting, but for once I feel like I can at least offer some participation in answering the question at hand. So what unusual sport do I participate in? Barebow archery.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know what that is, but yes.
Well, it's like a combination of basketball and rugby and archery on horses.
Archery.
Yeah.
If you want to tackle someone, you have to shoot them with a bow and arrow.
I feel that this isn't highly unusual in Europe, however it's quite overshadowed here in America by football, basketball, baseball, etc. I recently became a member of the USA Archery, the National Federation for the sport, as a collegiate archer, and plan to compete in my first tournament next year, perhaps.
Also, can we just go back to Cara saying, I feel like this isn't highly unusual in Europe? Yes, it is!
Yeah, I mean, it's easy probably to think that as we both live in the country that was home to such characters as Robin Hood and other Bowie people.
Other archers.
Yeah, Robin Hood and other archers is going to be it's going to be the biography of Robin Hood that I write.
I mean, is barebow just like what we would call normal archery? Because I know, like, it's still unusual, but it's like, I don't know what the difference is between archery and barebow archery, you know? Like, is that... Because I know you can add a lot of attachments and, you know, counterweights and stuff to...
I think barebow archery is archery without those attachments and counterweights.
Yeah. Which is pure archery. I like that. I've done a fair bit of archery, actually. I used to really enjoy it.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Huh.
I love it. I remember... we've said this before in relation to chapel choir, but I think you and I should do a little... Centre Parks trip away.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you imagine?
Simon and Dan go to Centre Parks, the movie.
Yeah,
and that would be like an hour and a half of content on Spongy and Electric.
Fantastic. Cara goes on to say, I'm many years younger than the majority of members of the local club I've joined, but I'm hoping that will give me more time for improvement. As someone who didn't participate in sports in high school, I'm concerned about making it work with the classes and schedule I have as a college student, but hopefully I will one day be qualified to travel abroad to shoot the international field circuit.
And to kill.
Shoot to kill. You two always make me smile and laugh with your banter, so hopefully this correspondence wasn't too wordy or boring. Not at all, Cara.
Perfect length. Really perfect length, Cara.
Best wishes, Cara, aged 20 years, 8 months, 18 days. I'll try to do better at a creative age system next time.
If I had to give some critique, I'd say there wasn't enough horseball in your email. But other than that...
It was made up for with the barebow archery.
Yeah. Now, Dan, I don't know if you remember this last episode, but we asked if anybody was listening from Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
And I have an email here from Eric saying, listening from Alaska. Dear Dr. Clark and Dan, the title of this email is a lie to grab your attention. Oh, for God's sake. Why did I not read the message before I read this out?
Brilliant.
Damn it, I fell into your plot, Eric. The title of this email is a lie to grab your attention.
It was a .nl email, or as the Dutch would say, .nl.
I don't know. They might be registered with like a Dutch university, but they are currently doing a semester in Alaska.
Yeah, mate, I mean, that sounds plausible. Keep reading and we'll see.
Right. I was reading your last episode and it got me thinking how little content I need to put into an email for you to read it out in an episode. You son of a bitch. Seeing as you read out an email from someone literally role-playing as a keyboard, I will assume this will not be too hard. I would try to not answer any of the questions you posed in the episode. Hang on, what? I would try to not answer any of the questions you posed in the episode. However, I am not humble enough, and so must mention that the weird sport I do is the Rubik's Cube, in which I have participated in the Dutch National Championships twice.
Whoa.
I have to admit, Rubik's Cubes became a lot less interesting to me once I realised that it was just like an algorithm to solve it. It's, you get to... Oh, there's a T shape. Oh, right. So now you get it so that there's like a cluster in the corner, and then you do these moves to finish off one phase. And, and then once it's like got to that point, I don't know.
Yeah.
I found it a lot less interesting, I guess. The next bit says, Simon, read this part. I, Simon Clark, am a big fan of Isabel Axelson. Thanks. Isabel is a good friend of mine who I sent your podcast to, so I hope she hears this. Hi, Isabel. I hope that you're doing well in Alaska.
Yeah. It's so great to hear about one of our readers from Alaska.
Yeah, cover the mouth with like a hand. ADR over the top. From Alaska. I think that was all. Peace, Eric, who's aged a load of minutes.
Okay.
P.S. Simon ordered your book. I can't wait to read it. Thank you, Eric, very much. So many of you have pre-ordered it. It's nuts, honestly. I am blown away by the response. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
We've got an email from, who did you just say hello to?
You're joking. No way.
We have an email here from Isabel Axelson.
Hey!
Isabel says, hello. In the latest episode, you spoke about sports that aren't very well known. I don't play any sports, actually, unless you count dashing to make more tea between Zoom calls as a sport, but my twin sister does.
Ooh.
She used to do fencing, but when she moved to a small town to study, she had to give that up, and instead she took up a sport called underwater rugby.
Amazing.
It's like... It's like a cross between rugby
swimming
and basketball on horses underwater with a bit of bare bow archery.
Oh my god. Wow, we're making our own hybrid sports. This
Yeah.
is great. This is the future of the Wikicast.
So, and instead she took up a sport called underwater rugby. It's wild. It's exactly what it sounds like. They play rugby underwater with snorkels and flippers and everything.
I'm not going to lie. I when I read that, I originally hoped that they had like scuba gear on. You know, like you're trying to tackle someone and they turn around too quickly and they just twat you in the head with a giant metal tank of air.
Yeah, or pierce your tank of air and you things go south quite quickly.
But you have bladed weapons as part of underwater rugby.
They all have spurs attached to their ankles.
Try and breathe now. Sorry, but breathe now.
Very good. Very good. It's so method. I forget you were a method actor. As it's underwater, you understand that it's difficult to film, but here is a link where you can see her team play. Scroll past the pictures. I'm not going to give you any more information, but I'm looking forward to seeing what you make of it. But I can try and answer any questions you have for the next time, if you have any. Right. I'm going to click on this link.
And this is Isabel's twin sister, I believe?
Yes. So we go past the
Oh, a very
pictures.
pretty town. That's lovely. What's it? Eggersund. Right, here we go. So, the goal appears to be a bin.
A waste paper basket.
A waste paper basket. And it's like, you know those like Blue Planet documentaries where it'll be like a shoal of fish mating in a frenzy. It's like watching that. There's a lot of body on body contact. Oh, that's cool. So there's somebody guarding the waste paper bin as like a goalie, and then they're tapping out depending on when they run out of air. That's cool.
Wow.
This is really fun.
I would absolutely play this sport.
I would 100% body you in this, Dan. I have no doubt in my mind that if I hit you from the wrong angle, I would snap you like a twig.
If you could catch me. My nickname as a child was the Racing Snake, because I'm quite a good swimmer.
The mackerel.
Yeah.
Tiny but very flexible fish.
Wow, that's so cool.
Wow. Oh, I love this. Hang on, do we have any more weird sports emails? I'm really enjoying these. I think that might be all of them. We do have a ton of other emails, but we've been recording for so long today, we are going to have to call it there, I think.
I think we ought to say, though, in terms of people picking up the brief and A, writing in, and B, writing in on brand, you guys have done an incredible job, so thank you so much.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. I really hope we can play some horseball at some point, Dan. I'm going to regret saying that, aren't I? I'm going to find myself in a muddy field somewhere in Surrey and be like, why did we agree to do this?
No, we said horse ball, not horse play. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Right, we need to end this episode before we get hooked into taking part in underwater bareback archery rugby with spurs, apparently.
Yeah.
So, Dan, what have we learned today?
Today, we've learnt about the Mars path.
Oh no, he's gone.
I'm gone. That's it. We've learned about the Mars Pathfinder, Simon.
What an article. One of my favourites.
Absolutely
gotta say.
Awesome. We discussed the 2027 planned mission to Titan, one of Saturn's moons. We spoke about the new album Magnificat 2 that's come out from St John's College, Cambridge.
We discussed the possibility of advertising in the sky as well.
New coffee pods from Nespresso, which are fun.
I mentioned something about a book or something like that. And then we had some of the most amazing correspondence, including horseball. Make Dan and Simon horseball again.
Yeah.
Not horse balls. That's going to be the thumbnail, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like just male horses balls. Why am I allowed to have this platform, Dan?
I don't know.
Seriously.
I don't know.
That's all for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. Join the Discord, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric, soon to be home of the best horseball content on YouTube.
Horseball power moves, bareback archery, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
A horseball power moves like the Konami code. Like you have to input the right directions into your horse, and then it does like a spinning kick.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It does a barrel roll.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole, and we'll see you next time.